And action. Hey everyone, it's DrRic. James had a question about vitamins. What to take, what's the basics, how do we figure out who needs what? And everybody's different. As I will always explain in my videos, what you need, what you should be eating, how you should be exercising, what you should be expecting for sleep, your body weight, everything is really has to be personally formulated, because there's no two humans that are the same. Even twins are different. Genetically, they might be the same, they might look alike, but there are small variances. So everybody's an individual. Everybody has their own sets of goals. Everybody has their hurdles that they have to get through. So that's why if you're trying to make a lifestyle change, it really should be personally designed. So if this is the first time you're finding me though, please hit the subscribe button down below and the alert button to find out when I put out new videos. They'll automatically populate in your email, and we all learn together. So vitamins, which ones should we take? A lot of my colleagues, when they see that I have patients on a lot of pills every morning, I've heard the term expensive urine, meaning that the only thing that you're getting out of buying all these vitamins is, well, you're not getting anything, you're just having pee that is excreting all the vitamins you take, and I don't agree. So this is how I go about doing it, and these are my vitamins that I take currently. The formula always changes because I have my hurdles and I have my challenges I have to work with. So the way we start out though is I take care of deficiency. And don't think that if your doctor gets blood tests and you look the blood tests up on your own that you can be a Google doctor on your own. Sometimes you have to learn how to interpret the data. I spent $50,000 to $60,000 of my own money to learn over 2 years with Andy Weil and the Arizona Center for Integrative Medicine stuff that I didn't learn in medical school or residency. So your average doctor does not get much training in nutrition. So I would be very careful about what they suggest to you. And for my doctors that are watching, get some extra training, empower yourselves. But so most Americans need vitamin D. Most Americans north of Georgia don't, even if you're out sun tanning or you do a lot of outdoor walking, hiking work. The sun rays that hit the earth north of Georgia aren't enough to usually fuel or power the conversion of vitamin D in your skin. So I'd say equatorial, Mexico, Florida, Texas, you're probably okay. But check your vitamin D levels. My usual sweet spot is 50 to 70 as far as the results. A lot of labs will say 30 is fine. I don't agree. So vitamin D3, this is mine. I go cheap. I don't think you'll find many adulterants in vitamin D, so I go super cheap as far as vitamin D. And I take that every day, even in the summertime. Chicago's summers are only 3 months. So if you plan on stopping your vitamin in the summer, okay. I mean, how much are you saving? $12? So just do it every day and make a habit out of it. Next thing I take personally is magnesium, because I've had atrial fibrillation before, and palpitations I don't like. Cramping, especially when I ascend onto high summits or after a couple hours of hiking with a backpack, I cramp up terribly. So magnesium, I've checked my magnesium. I'm low on magnesium. I take magnesium. I like aspartate with potassium. I think glycinate's pretty decent. Malate's all right. Magnesium oxide, magnesium citrate, forget it. You're wasting your money. That's where you're probably having expensive pee, because I think that essentially just irritates the colon and makes you poop. So for those of you who are just using magnesium to poop because you're constipated, all right, but they have a dual purpose. If you're low on magnesium, meaning less than 6.4, 6.0 to 6.4 is where my sweet spot is as far as RBC magnesium. I think it's more accurate than just magnesium from the blood serum. Then get to that sweet spot. So as far as other things, personally, Jim, you wanted to know what I take. I did have a cholesterol problem, then I went vegetarian, and I did not have any problems with cholesterol after that. But I missed some meats. I occasionally will dive into red meat. I was doing a keto type of diet for a change, beginning of this summer. I don't like it anymore. It really screwed up my belly. So I'm going back to fish, egg, maybe a little chicken if I can find good chicken, and the rest is all vegetarian. So if you're eating a standard American diet, there's way too many omega-6s, not enough omega-3s. If you're eating a vegetarian or semi-vegetarian, or you're just mindful about your eating, then the likelihood is you have not that many omega-6s, but you don't have enough omega-3s. Omega-3s can be found in fish, they can be found in walnuts, avocado, coconut oil. Be careful with the coconut oil because there's a lot of saturated fats in that. So all these things have omega-3. The only problem is, are you getting enough? So for example, if I go with fish, a can of sardines, mackerel, standard can, I don't have a sample here, standard can of sardines, mackerel, a packet of tuna fish, which I don't like because it's high mercury. I think you're allowed half can per week of tuna, according to EWG's website. Herring, so all that stuff equals about 1,000 milligrams of total omega-3. If you have cholesterol issues, if you have inflammation of joints, if you have depression, if you have any of those things, you really should be taking 4,000 a day. The gut can tolerate the absorption of 2,000 at a time, so I usually split it, 2,000 in the morning, 2,000 at night. And check out my video on DrRic tutorial omega-3 oil, because usually the front label is different than the back label. Nutrition panel is always what you have to read, and you have to look for total omega-3 content. Per capsule, you should have about 1,000. And sometimes they won't say total omega-3. You'll have to see or look for DHA or EPA. That's your omega-3. And there's also ways to balance out the DHA and EPA for if you want more mind calming or if you want more joint calming, but I'm not going to get into that. I just say push the envelope. And you can't really overdose on omega-3. So what's the big deal, guys? Not my patients, talking to my doctors. So the other thing, so those are all, for me, mandatory. Now, for me also mandatory, and for most Americans. Now, for me, desired, turmeric. So I think there's some anecdotal evidence that shows that India has the lowest evidence or lowest occurrence of Alzheimer's disease in the world. And turmeric is a spice in India. Now, turmeric has also been used, and I have other videos on turmeric. So turmeric has also been found to decrease inflammatory markers in the bloodstream. You have to have a blend of turmeric and black pepper. A lot of these companies will have curcumin because it seems to be a buzzword, and if you put it on the label, it attracts people more. But if you can get something with turmeric, curcumin, and black pepper, great for you. Doctor's Best has been approved by Consumer Labs. My favorite before was Turmeric Supreme, I think, by Gaia brand, but it was found to have adulterants. Gaia brand, you gotta pick it up there. So this is the thing, as far as choosing, this is probably my most expensive supplement. I used to go expensive, like Carlson brand and Nordic Naturals with the fish oils, but in the research I've been able to, and I called Nordic Naturals. That's nice because they claim that they fish only in the boundary waters of Norway and only have small fish. You really, in the distillation process of most fish oils, the mercury, I believe, goes away and the oil separates easily. So I don't think you have to worry about mercury. If you're a woman and you're pregnant, I wouldn't take a chance. So that's where I go with walnut or avocado or flaxseed oil. But if you're not pregnant, fish oil. So I was getting back to the turmeric or curcumin. This helps my fibromyalgia. And so I told you I'm already AFib from before. Atrial fibrillation is an unusual heartbeat that sometimes it doesn't kill you, but it can cause blood clots and it can make you really weak. I had that before, but I was probably doing too much alcohol and coffee and bad eating. Those of you who come to my office, you'll see that steak, egg, and cheese bagel and the 10 packs of sugar on my desk. I used to eat that all the time when I worked for Central DuPage Hospital, and that's what put me into the ICU where they had to shock my heart. Not going to do that again. I think so I also have fibromyalgia. My trigger point's right here. It's under control. I think I beat it. knock on wood, but I will always use this because the only way I can beat disease is by working aggressively to control muscle. I believe if you control muscle, if you feed muscle the proper building blocks, if you get good rest, if you meditate or have some mindful practice, I think your body can reverse disease. I just push very hard and I dedicate a lot of time to exercise and it hurts. So I use this to turn that inflammatory process around as fast as possible. I usually will back off when I'm not exercising, like school is coming up and I won't be able to exercise 2 times a day and as aggressively as I can now. I have to back off to Friday, Saturday, and Sunday only. I'll probably back off and save this until Christmas vacation when I can hit it again. And then I actually should put this as, everybody should take it, but this is a plus minus. Probiotic. This is Yarrow brand, and I change probiotics every 3 months. But I think everybody, I like following Justin Sonnenburg and his information with his wife. He has a nice website. I'll see if I can put the link down below. The evidence is great on building up this gut microbiome. This is an extra though. I think there's so many other things that you have to have. If you have extra money, I do a probiotic. If you have a gut problem, I definitely would do a probiotic. If you have a metabolic problem, thyroid antibodies, autoimmune, I definitely do an antibiotic. A probiotic. Oh, if you take antibiotics, I do a probiotic. So I do one of these every day. And as far as which ones, check out my video down below. That's what I happen to be doing for this next 3 months. Now those are the mandatory things. Everything else is just as needed. So I'm experimenting with my body, trying to push the envelope. I'm turning 56 this year, and that means I have 4 years before I turn 60. 60 is a magic number. That's when metabolic rate decreases and challenges physically come up. So I'm trying to really push the envelope as far as getting as healthy as I can before getting to that decade. And that's a goal for me. If you don't have a goal, you should get one, because if you don't have a goal, then work seems to be the goal, and work is not a goal. Work doesn't care about your health after you retire, so Medicare doesn't really cover much. It covers going to see my colleagues, and my colleagues will put you on a lot of medicines. So if that's what you want to do, fine. If you don't have enough money to take supplements or vitamins, and I've been called to the carpet because some patients say, I can't afford it. Well, fine. If you can't afford it, then eat better. If you can't afford eating better, get ready, because that disease is going to come up. If you don't feel it now and you're ignoring your health, you're going to feel it sooner or later, and you're not going to like it. Because if you try to make the lifestyle change later, when you're 60, overweight, bad knees, too late, harder. So I'm doing something to stimulate testosterone. This, I question whether it does anything, but it happens to be a tiny bit of caffeine in here. If anything, this is probably placebo, but I'm doing it for 3 months and I'm off. There's other things that in some circles of hormone replacement therapy, you can change around estrogen or influence estrogen to not be secreted as much, NAC and DIM. My friend John had put up some good information. I'll see if I can put some links down below on some bad side effects with this. But again, this is where the fly by the seat of your pants kind of guessing is I guess, okay. Again, these are not mandatory. These are just personal. I'm doing it for maybe a placebo effect. Everything else, I think, is important, like I mentioned. So, and that brings me to the next point, placebo effect. So even if there is a placebo effect, and I'm also doing progesterone cream at night, even if there is a placebo effect, and that's taken into account when pharmaceuticals put out new drugs, I believe it's a 20 to 30% placebo effect that a lot of people will get during the first couple of months of taking a new prescription. It still works. Now, if you have to pay $1,000 for a placebo effect, I think that's defeating, and that's too expensive. If you just pay $5 to $10 a month for a placebo effect, why not? Because if you can, my theory is that if you can get your body moving, your life moving in a direction that the muscle, the heart, your sleep, your nutrition can take over, then you won't need that placebo anymore. But we just need to move and initiate movement to get unstuck. So a lot of people when they come to see me are really tired, they're really in pain, or they're just frustrated with being on so many prescriptions. And if you check out my summit board, I've got pictures of summit boards. I have 3 of them. I got a 4th one because too many people are having successes. So if you check out the summit board, a lot of people, when they're just given direction, will be able to make a lifestyle change. And then I don't have to see you don't have to see anybody anymore. Don't have to see me anymore. As long as you're on your way. It's always nice to utilize what you can, whether it's patting on the back, whether it's challenge. Like sometimes a negative challenge would be, if you don't change your life in 3 months, I gotta put you on insulin. If you don't change your life in 3 months, I gotta put you on the blood pressure medicine, and then you have to eat the side effects of the insulin and the blood pressure medicine, or cholesterol medicine, or I'm gonna send you to my colleagues who will probably do catheterization of your heart and put a stent in there. If that's a threat, that sometimes it's inspirational to get your ass moving. But usually those threat kind of inspirations kind of die down fast. Placebo, I think, when you're driven to make a change and you're being given a ticket out of suffering, I think this helps. Again, would I do all these on a long-term basis? No. Would I do the other ones that I talked about as far as deficiency and balance of nutrition? Yes, I would. So I think I've put everything here. I also I love Panaway. I think essential oils are really good. Expensive, it's like $100, but I use it sparingly, especially with my trigger point. I just worked out. I'm going to be going into the rooms smelling like this. But so hopefully that helps, Jim. But and for all of you watching, if you can't afford supplements, understood, then try to do as best as you can with nutrition. But if you don't know the ins and outs of nutrition, you have to seek out help from a nutritional coach. TNF and elgin is awesome. I think Maritza, who is a registered dietitian, has done great work. I also have Valerie Early in Sonnenburg. She's really good, a little expensive, but worth it if you can afford. But going out on your own and just doing Google searches and trying to find an author, it's a little bit tough. If you do have to follow an author, read from cover to cover. Don't just watch snippets on YouTube. You really have to understand the author as far as nutrition. And if you think about it, if you're using nutrition as your vitamins, which you should, Hippocrates said use medicine as your food. If you're using nutrition, you have to learn the ins and outs of what the food industry is doing to the nutrition, but that's expensive too. If you're going back to my fish idea, if you're going to just use fish as your omega-3 oil source, I mean, how much is 7 ounces of salmon? And the only salmon I would eat would be sockeye, because you can't farm sockeye. That's like $20 per steak piece. And if you do that, that's about 1,000, maybe 2,000 milligrams of omega-3. So if I remember, I told you 4,000 a day, maybe 2,000 if you can't afford that. 4,000 a day. That's like $40 a day of steak, of salmon steak. That's expensive too. Buying organic is also expensive. So either way, it's going to be a little bit of an expense, whether you do the concentrated amounts in vitamins and then eat a healthy diet, or whether you do a diet. One way or another, you have to invest. Even if you don't do any of this stuff and you get a nutritionist, that's expensive too. So one way or another, the industry of food undercuts everything. So it might seem like in the short run you're saving money by eating cheap food, but in the long run that crap is going to accumulate in you and cause disease. Food should be your medicine. So if disease is ignored, eventually that will be expensive. Just ask anybody that's going through bypass or stent how much they pay for rehab, because sometimes it's not covered, how much you'll have to pay for a bypass. I think it hit $200,000 to $300,000 for bypass in 1 year. And it might be covered, it might not be covered by insurance, but if you're not 65, you're gonna eat that price. So please, make changes in life, seek out coaches. Jim, good question. So everybody else, I'll hopefully see you in the clinic. Otherwise, thanks for watching.